Shed. Just gonna have a quick rundown on my bike packing setup. This is like round 3, version 3. It's a couple new things. So had the old frame bag there. I need to really do a better one. That's off my old bike, so it doesn't quite fit the new bike, and it needs the zipper's a bit crap. You can see the zipper's come off its rails, so it needs a roll type. Like dry bag fitting might be a way forward with that. And then on the back we've got the Alpkit Koala. It's alright. I'm not a massive fan of even if you tighten them up, they do have a lot of wobble. Possibly what would be good is something with a bit of strengthening in it. There's a lot of companies now producing stuff with a frame that it clips onto. I think Alpac are doing one now just to give more stability, because it's got a lot of movement on there. I've actually wore a hole. You might be able to see it there. I'll get around that way. Wore a hole in it on my old bike after one trip, so it was rubbing on the seat collar, and I actually bore a hole in it. This is X-Pac, I think it's X-Pac 21, which I'm not. Everybody seems to rave about it. It's not that abrasion resistant. It's it's an okay fabric. I wouldn't get super excited about it. It's certainly not like 1000 denier Cordura or anything like that. So you're compromising a little bit in weight, but you can wear a hole in it as that. Got a little. Actually made a couple of these bags, but this one here I bought off somebody. This is a trial. The Alpkit, I can't remember, it's a top bar bag. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's they all kind of flop around a bit. This one flopped around a little bit less than my homemade one, but it's just a little bit different. It's actually deeper than my homemade one. My homemade one is kind of tapers down a lot more. The big difference is up front here. In past videos, I've made a top, like a front roll holder, that I made from scratch. I made 2 of them, one for my mate Angus, who's got his currently on his bike now, which we're going to have a look in a sec. But my first generation try was using these. You can get these off eBay or AliExpress. They're like a handlebar extension. So if you want to put your lights or your computer or anything on your bars and you've got no room, they produce these things, and they have a little short carbon bar that you can put your bike computer on, or your lights, or whatever you have up the front. So what I've done is I originally made the first generation version of this had quite a short. I found that these come in 2 lengths. I found one that was a lot longer. This one works a bit better because it holds everything away from your gear cables and your brake cables a bit more. So what I did is I basically cut down a carbon fiber extruded wrapped carbon fiber pole. I think it's like 22mm diameter, and then I made this little holder up that goes. It has loops that the pole goes through, and then your straps go up over the top, and then that has a Cordura back plate basically with, I've got a couple of tent poles, cut off tent poles that I've sewn in there. This is quite a rough one. This is kind of like something I just threw together to see whether it would work. And then I've got a bit of Dyneema cord that goes around the fork crown and back to let's see, we'll look down here, back to a adjuster. This seems to work really well. It's quite solid. I was only tentative because these aren't very big screws and it's not very heavy duty material, so it's interesting to see how long it lasts, but it seems to do the job fantastically. It is definitely solid. It doesn't move around, it doesn't squash your cables too much. There's still a little bit of a bend going on there, but nowhere near as bad as the system we had that it's up against the bars, so that's a good thing. So that's the system I want to try and develop a bit more in the future. It's almost like people like Bar Yak and those sort of guys are doing aero bar style systems that all bolt on. I like this because it's solid and it doesn't move around anywhere. When you've got your strapping and blocks of foam, there's some movement in there, and it actually basically rubs your frame and wears your frame out. So this thing here sort of keeps it away from there. The other thing I've done is I've put some front using some blackburn, I think these are called cargo cages, blackburn cargo cages, and what I've done is I use these zefal water bottle boss connections. They're basically a zip tie. They're kind of a cool little design. They're a zip tie that goes around your fork, and there's a 2-part system in here. The bolt for your cage goes through and then actually bolts up, and what it does is it pulls these 2 pieces apart, and it tightens the cable ties up even more. So it's pretty solid, doesn't move around very much. And what I've done here is I've got a couple of dry bags. These are actually, I think, about 8 litres, if I remember rightly, thereabouts. And so I've got tent in one and my down quilt in the other. And this has improved the handling no end, because basically the weight, I think the tent today, I'm taking the big heavy duty Cloud Peak tent, which is about 2 kilos. So the skin is probably about one and a half, something like that. So that weight's then taken off here and put down lower, and it actually makes a massive difference in the ability for it to handle. It makes the handling so much better than what it was. It doesn't feel like I've got power steering. It just livened the bike up immensely. So we've done about, so far we've done about 55 Ks, a lot of it on single track, and they seem to have not shifted. They don't seem to be loose or anything like that. They seem to be quite good. So we'll see. I've obviously taken spare, I'm carrying spare cable ties, and I've also got spare ones of these in case this broke. But so far so good. I've given a bit of a bashing, and that's quite happy. So yeah, that's something to think of. We'll have a quick look at Angus's bike right here, because he's got a slightly different setup. Because he's riding full suspension, he's got obviously the added disadvantage of movie parts that go up and down. So at the back, he's just got one of these clip-on racks. You just basically bolt them onto his seat post. So he takes his dropper post off and puts that on, and then he's got an airlock. This is one of the tapered Alp kit bags. It's a 13 litre one. He does find, in the past he just used a big dry bag, and he bought one of these obviously for the shape of it, and it means that he's not rubbing his legs up against it. But it's a lot smaller than what he said in the past, so he's actually lost a little bit of capacity there. And then down on his frame, I made him basically a custom shaped frame bag to fit his bike. So he uses that to put quite a bit of stuff in. It's quite wide, so he gets a lot of kip in. Again, a little Alp kit bar top bag, and then he's got the two, what do you call these? These are the stem cells. So he's got water in there and both of those. And then on the front here, this is the carrier that I made. I made 2 of these last time we went bikepacking, and that's basically Dyneema ripstop. There's pieces of plastic card and a lot of foam in that in there. But as you can even see there, you got rubbing on your bars, and also it does compress everything quite a bit. So what Angus has to do is actually he slides everything around on his bars so that he's not crushing any of his cables and stuff in there. And it does an okay job. It seems to be quite stable. He's got quite a bit of weight in there because he hasn't got anything on the front. So he's got like his tent and all sorts of stuff in here. So it's taken quite a bit of weight on the bars. And going from that to mine, having those racks on the front, it does change the handling a fair amount. So having all that weight at the top, it's a lot more wobbly, basically. The other thing is, quick one to think, so he's got a little Alp kit front bag here, but this dry bag he's got here is actually one I made. It's made out of X-Pack fabric, and I seam sealed it and then everything as well. So in theory, it's pretty much waterproof. I mucked up a little bit because I didn't seam seal right to this the end, so maybe you get a little bit of water in the end there, but that's probably quite minimal. But yeah, doing an X-Pack, you can actually seam seal X-Pack. I just used a 3-layer seam sealing tape and just used basically, funny enough, a hairdryer and a roller, and it stuck fine. So all right, so hopefully that gives you a few tips for you. So there, and stay tuned, because I'm going to do a bit more with this system here to see whether we can make it any better. It seems to be pretty bomber. So yeah, so as always, throw some comments in the comments box, ask away questions wise, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks very much, and see you later.